Hey Chem Team, so the density of an object is just a measure of how tightly packed the molecules of a substance are. So for example, if the density of salt is 2 grams per every milliliter, what that means is that for every single milliliter of salt, there are 2 grams of mass inside of it. So for another example, the density of gold is 19.3 grams per milliliter. That just means that 1 milliliter of gold weighs 19 grams. And so what you'll notice is that a single milliliter of gold, because it has the higher density, its particles are much more tightly packed together than salts. So knowing the density allows you to predict the weights of other amounts of a substance. So for example, with salt, if 1 milliliter of salt weighs 2 grams per milliliter, then 2 milliliters of salt would weigh 4 grams. 3 milliliters of salt would weigh 6 grams. And 4 milliliters of salt would weigh 8 grams. You can even predict fractions as well. So if you had 3.5 milliliters of salt, because each milliliter weighs 2 grams, we'd know that 3.5 milliliters would be 7 grams. And the same thing would hold true for gold, except each additional milliliter of gold would add 19.3 grams per milliliter added, rather than just 2 grams. So you can identify an unknown substance by calculating its density. So let's say we have an unknown substance here. The first thing we'd want to do is we'd want to calculate how many milliliters of volume this object has. So let's say that this object has 10 milliliters of volume. Next, we want to find out how many grams of mass are in this volume. And so we would use our balance, and we determine that this object has 193 grams of mass inside of it. Well, last, we would use division to see how many grams are in each milliliter. So in this case, if 10 milliliters of volume weigh 193 grams, we would know that in a single milliliter, there would be 19.3 grams of mass. And last, we can ask, does this density that we've calculated match the density of any other known substances? And in this case, this would match the density of gold, since gold's density is 19.3 grams per milliliter, and this substance's density is 19.3 grams per milliliter, and this substance's density is 19.3 grams per milliliter. This unknown substance could be a different colored gold. And that's it. At this point, you guys have some practice problems. We'll see you next class.